No matter how the first couple rounds of the 2023 end up for the Las Vegas Raiders, there is still a need to hit on those late round guys, those day 3 guys, some of those day 2 guys, those third round picks. But yes, day 3, that is it. That's where you get the bread and butter of your roster. That's where these things really come together. And I think there's some targets that the Raiders really need to go after in the later rounds that could really make a lot of sense. And yes, this will be kind of in chronological order, guys, from the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds that we could see going. So to me, the player number 1 that you really got to target, especially when you get into day 3, is Zach Pickens if he's still there. Like, Zach Pickens has been my dude this entire draft. Yes, defensive tackle Zach Pickens coming up out of South Carolina. Like, he's just a dude. Now, I'll be honest, just looking at his stats here, only 2.5 sacks there for the Gamecocks this year. Not fantastic, but I mean, that's his bread and butter. Like, he is a pass rusher. He is a dude that's going to get after it in the trenches. And I felt like that's what the Raiders have really missed when you talk about specifically in the interior. Bilo Nichols last year did some things. You had some other guys like Neil Farrell Jr., but I expect Neil Farrell Jr. to really step up and be that dude that's the run stuffer, and then Zach Pickens to be the guy, that future guy at defensive tackle that could be a lot of fun for you. So, and you'll see here, yes, he's a pass rusher. He had a 75.0 PFF pass rush grade as well as a 60.7 run defense grade. So he's got to get better. That's just the reality of the situation. He's got to be able to take on double teams better. He's got to be able to shoot his gaps better in that regard. But his first step, his functional strength at the point of attack, I'm really excited for. Also last year, yes, he had a PFF overall grade of 67.3. But I do think that's what the Raiders defense has missed, is a guy that, that first step quickness that can just immediately penetrate and be disruptive. And I think he's that dude that definitely needs to be, really a big target for the Raiders later on in the later rounds of the draft, Player number 2 that I think needs to be a target for the Raiders in the later rounds is guard Andrew Voorhees. I know I'm going to get flack for this, but guess what? I don't care, because mainly what the Raiders need to do is defense. I have said that from the very beginning. I've also brought up different scenarios, and we get attacked just because we're just trying to bring up all the different scenarios and positions that the Raiders need to address. It's like, calm down. We're just looking at all these different things. I agree with you. Defense is the major need here, but you have to be able to look at the full scope of things. Dave Ziegler and company would not be doing their jobs if they did not do and look at the full scope of things. But let's face it, right guard is a major need for the Raiders. And in the later rounds, I think they could get a guy like Andrew Voorhees that would make a lot of sense. This dude is a dude. He's a run grader in the run game, but last year, played a total of 720 snaps for the Trojans, only allowed a couple of sacks, did have 12 hurries and 1 quarterback hit, but he's an absolute stud at the point of attack when it comes to the run game. PFF run blocking grade of 82.5, also an 80.1 PFF pass blocking grade. Dude's an absolute stud, an overall grade of 81.9. Yes, he tore his ACL at the combine, but that really means you could get him in really the 5th, 6th round, and a guy that's going to be a starter in this league. Again, he's not going to be an all-star. He's not going to be a Pro Bowler. But I mean, at the same time, you just don't find guys like that every day in the draft. But Andrew Voorhees, he's going to be a solid guard, that a lunch pail guy that shows up every day to work, that you're really excited about, and he's going to do something for your team. You have to be excited about a guy like Andrew Voorhees. Player number 3 that I think definitely needs to be a target in the later rounds for the Raiders is linebacker Owen Pappoe. Now, Owen Pappoe is one of those guys that you just kind of did okay in college, but really blew up at the combine. His RAS score was pretty respectable. 9.24 was the score, even though his size isn't great. 6 foot 225, but also put up 29 reps on the bench press. Dude's jacked. You love to see it. Had a great vertical and a broad jump. Ran a 4.39 at the combine. A 4.39. So this dude, uber athletic, really good in the 20 yards split and all that. Was a dude, quite honestly, he just can run. He can flat up run sideline to sideline and do some different things for you. So that makes you excited. Now, when looking at his production, he wasn't eye popping at Auburn. I'll extend the olive branch there. Yes, you want to see him attack more downhill, but I think that's something that can be coached up, especially for a 5th or 6th round linebacker. And he was pretty respectable in coverage too, especially if you look at his coverage stats down there, having over 420 coverage snaps last year, targeted 34 times, only allowing 25 catches, no touchdowns, by the way, did have an interception and a passer rating of a 77.0 and a coverage grade of 77.2. So no, he's not, you're not going to find Luke Kuechly in the 5th round, but I mean, he's a guy that could develop into a starter and at least be a very high-end backup, or a guy that, you bring in and could be a lot of fun on your interior linebacking core that needs help. That definitely needs help. He needs to be definitely on the radar for the Raiders. And finally, player number 4, we try to kind of go down in the needs for the Raiders. I definitely think that cornerback Anthony Johnson coming up out of Virginia is a dude that you need to take a flyer on or really do your homework on. So I'll be honest. So he's a little bit of a bigger corner. We were going to go with a guy like Starling Thomas V. Honestly, everybody seems to love him at this point, but I really feel like the Raiders already have an undersized corner in a guy like Duke Shelley. I want a big guy that can, somewhat run, that can also maybe potentially play a little bit of safety if you need him to, have a little bit of versatility, but can do things at a high level. Anthony Johnson is that dude. So background, yes, was all ACC selection, in 2022, was that dude, but spent his first 3 years of his college football career at Louisville. Didn't really get the time of day in the first year. His second year really seemed to blow up there. But, and then finally his junior year, it was the COVID year. Things were weird. But these last couple of years for Virginia has been that dude. 44 tackles in his junior, quote unquote junior year. And then his senior year in his 5th season, yes, was that dude as well. So, quite honestly, I really feel like he's a guy that, he's tall, runs in the 4.6 range. So he's not absolutely great in terms of speed. But honestly, I think that there's some things you can do in kind of the zone coverage scheme of things to kind of help him out a little bit. But I do think with his length, he's going to be hard to be able to get catches over. So, coverage snaps here, 381 last year for Virginia Tech, for Virginia. I always get that because I apologize. But did have targeted 60 times, 31 catches, so almost 50% there on completion percentage, had 318 yards and no touchdowns and 2 interceptions and a 53.3 passer rating when thrown at, and he finished with a PFF coverage grade of 84.4. And I get it. I understand this guy is not going to be that guy that you get in the first or second round, but this is a deep corner class. He's going to be a guy that, he really does get an opportunity to come in on special teams and do his things beforehand. But like I've said, I'm really not that worried about this Raider cornerback class, but he is a guy that I would be really excited about in the later rounds because of, I think, what he can do in a versatility standpoint, but also playing on the outside as a big corner and doing some different things for your defense. But that is it. That is our late round targets for the Las Vegas Raiders in the 2023 NFL Draft. Make sure you guys like and subscribe down below. Leave a like and a comment. It helps people find the show. We greatly appreciate all your support. You guys are all truthfully awesome. We love every single one of you. Down in the description below, you'll find all of our social media platforms. So give us a like and a follow there. Also, remember to give us a listen and sub on iTunes. And finally, if you have anything else you'd like us to cover, send us an email at thesportsbp@yahoo.com or put it in the comment section down below, and we would love to cover it. But let us know what you guys think about the late round targets for the Las Vegas Raiders in the 2023 NFL Draft.